Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Writing Tip Tuesday. I'm Sammy, and I'm a writer who likes to help other writers become better writers. This week, I am taking the idea of Kate Kavanaugh writes because I think it seemed to be pretty valuable, and I would like to experience it as well. So Kate Kavanaugh made a video like 5 years ago where she talked about her insecurities in writing. They were very project specific, and she then recently reacted to her video of her talking about her insecurities and what they were about and whether or not she has overcome them. And I think that that's super valuable as an option. And I also think that it would be really nice to put these things that I'm insecure about into a time capsule of sorts, where this video is something that I can reference back in the future and be like, wow, you were so insecure about that. I'm so happy we are at this point now in the future. And hopefully it'll help anybody else watching feel less alone in the fact that they are insecure about writing things. I think that that's a valuable thing to experience. And I felt that value while watching Kate Kavanaugh's video, and that's what inspired me to be here. And these are in no particular order. There's no like hierarchy or ranking of these insecurities. They're just sort of what came up while I was thinking about them in the order that they came up. So it may not be the most cohesive thought process, but it is the things that I am insecure about for writing. My first insecurity that I thought of is that I'm worried that the more that I learn about writing and how to get better at writing, and the more that I do research on the craft of writing to share with you guys here on this channel, the less that I will have the interest in actually doing it. Because I've had that happen with other hobbies where it's like I conceptually know how to be good at it, which is good enough for me to not do the practice of actually getting good at it, which is honestly like a sad thing where it's like, oh, I know I could be good at it. I just don't want to put in the effort for it. And I think that that's generally a good sign that maybe that hobby wasn't for me. But I'm worried that the same thing will happen with writing, and that there's just so much nuance about it that I haven't hit that point yet. Because there are so many different ways to be good at writing. There are so many different ways that you can better your craft of writing and learn to be better at it. And there are so many different perspectives on what makes something good or bad that I'm hoping that will prevent me from hitting that point of, okay, I'm good. I don't want to do it anymore. I got to figure out some other challenge to beat out. But that is something that I am worried about just because of who I have been in the past. I am worried that I am not actually as good of a writer as I think that I am, and as the people around me think that I am. Most of the people who are actively telling me that I am good at writing haven't actually read anything that I have done since college, when I was forcing myself to be creative for multiple different writing classes and forcing that out of me and not necessarily building something that I was always proud of. And I think that's kind of like a contradiction there, where I wasn't necessarily building stuff that I was always proud of, but people thought that I was a good writer then. But now I'm trying to build things that I am proud of, and I'm concerned that doing something that I'm proud of will equate to not actually being a good writer, even though that doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't, but I'm just very concerned with the fact that my sense of capability in terms of writing is not stemming from the fact that it's actually there presently, but that it was there once. I don't think that storytelling is something that you can just forget how to do. I do think you can become less efficient or effective at it. It's the kind of thing where it's like, you can't forget how to ride a bike, but somebody I'm sure has forgotten how to ride a bike. I definitely stopped riding bikes for a minute and then got on one and fell down a few times, which feels to me like I forgot how to ride a bike. I do also regularly have the experience of going back to something that people were like, oh, your writing was really good, and then reading it now and it's not good from my perspective, which could come from I've learned a lot since I wrote it, and I can see a lot more. I've done a lot more critiquing and actively thinking about criticism, that now I'm like, okay, that's not as good as I thought it was. But if people then thought it was good, then maybe it is still good and I'm just a harsher critic. And if I'm a harsher critic, then will I ever perceive my own work as being good? And will I ever be able to take other people's compliments when they mean it and not assume that they don't mean it and they're just saying it to make me feel better? Because I feel like that is sort of where I'm at with any compliment that I get. And I think a way for me to combat that would be to share my writing more, but I also don't want to share anything that I'm not proud of, or at least on the verge of being proud of, something that I think only needs a little bit more work to become the best that it can be. And I just need to get over that and start sharing my work, either with people around me or with you guys, and seeing what comes from that. But I'm just very concerned about it, and there's a lot of imposter syndrome happening there because I didn't write creatively for such a long time. It feels like I've just got a very long disconnect from the time that I was writing regularly for school to now when I'm trying to write regularly for myself. Sort of connected to that though, I'm worried that I am too concerned with the outside perspective on my story and doing something more of a people-pleasing situation with how things happen in my stories, rather than focusing in on what the story actually needs. And that creates this like moment of, should I even keep going? It doesn't feel right. I don't know. I don't want to put in the effort to fix it because there's just so much that I would have to change, because there was one event that should have gone another way. And then I did like a readership service to the things that I know people like to read, even though it just didn't feel right for me. Then just nobody's gonna read it because it's never gonna be finished. And I'm really worried that that's something that I do more often than I know that I do it, and something that's gonna be a very hard habit to break at some point, which is not what I want at all. Not ideal, even a little bit. I'm concerned that it's a bigger problem than I am aware of. And that's my main worry there. Oh my gosh, all of these are kind of connected now that I'm talking about them out loud. So the next one is that I'm worried that I will never have an effective revision process because I have a hard time finishing things. I've been working on revising a play, I call it my bird play, that I wrote in college, and I honestly got stuck in revising it because I wasn't getting the right emotion out of it. I started working on a different project to just get my momentum up, something that I was more excited about and less frustrated with, to hopefully break that trend. But I still haven't finished revising it. I haven't finished a second draft of it, and I didn't spend a lot of time doing revisions in college because that wasn't really what it was for. The process of revising a project is something that I haven't had the opportunity to dip my toe into, and that comes a lot from the fact that I don't finish writing things. And it also comes from the fact that I've never really been presented with a clear, here's a good system to start with, and then navigate that from yourself. I took a class in college that was called Revisions, and I didn't learn anything about revising in that class at all. That could have been my fault because I didn't do the work effectively, but it also is the fact that I didn't learn anything from it, which is a concern. And I have a lot of insecurities about my revision process because I don't know what it is. I haven't reached it enough times to feel like, okay, we can get through this. I'm worried that I don't know where commas go, which is like so silly. I have no reason to be concerned about this because I've done a lot of readings on it. I have the Elements of Style, which like is basically a go-to handbook for grammatical things such as commas. There's a whole chapter on commas, and I've read it. I've read it a couple of times. I know where commas go, but the things that change with grammar and societal expectations of things, there are other people who read what I'm writing and they're like, there should be a comma here. And I feel confidently that there should not be a comma there, but they feel confidently that there should be a comma there. And both of them kind of read the same. So I don't know what that is. And I'm worried that there's gonna be some kind of system where maybe I am trying, why is my battery dead? Battery no longer dead. Okay. Anyways, I am concerned that there will be a point where I will be like querying a book or a project, and I will be so confident that I can get published traditionally or whatever it is. I can get my work out into the world and people are going to want to read it, and then I'm not going to be able to do that because of a comma, which is the most unlikely situation ever, pretty much. And I know that, but I'm also like, there's a part of me that is worried about it. I am worried that I will be really excited and really proud to publish something, and like the works that I did in college, they will not be good enough for me in the future, or I will publish something that I feel is ready to be published, and then it will ruin my opportunities for the future for publishing, because that is what my name is tied to. And I genuinely don't love the idea of a pen name. And if I get screwed over by myself feeling fully confident this is ready to be published, it's ready to go out, and then it not being ready to go out, I'm so worried that that will happen and that I will have to change my name for marketing purposes, because nobody's gonna want to read a book by Sammi Shane when Sammi Shane's first book was really bad. I'm genuinely scared of that happening, but I don't think it will, because I'm scared of it happening. I think my first thing that I put out is gonna go through the absolute ringer and not either go through the ringer or be something that has the potential to develop. Maybe it's like a online system type of writing where I can update it should I need to. Maybe I will post chapter by chapter on like a blog system and then get feedback on that before publishing a physical book or something along those lines. Maybe it'll be a play that I'm working on, because plays are more of a living document where if the playwright wants to do some updates on it, they can. They just stop licensing it and then they have a new version out and it's that year's version. And that's something that has the opportunity to take away that stress of not feeling confident in the first thing that goes out later on. I'm sure that I will feel confident about it in the moment, unless this insecurity becomes much more sturdy in the long run and I don't ever want to publish anything because I'm scared that it's going to be bad, which I don't think this will escalate to, but there's always the chance that it could. I'm afraid of the previous insecurity stopping me from letting anybody read my work, that and my fear of not being as good of a writer as I think I am. I think those two in tandem may lead to me not wanting other people to read my work, but I do know that I currently have a very strong support system around my writing with people who know how I take criticism and how I react best to critique, and people who would care about my feelings with the system of giving me criticism. I do think I would be given enough that I would feel confident putting something out for strangers who don't know or care about me to give me critique on. But it's just getting to the point of feeling comfortable there that I'm worried about. I'm worried about the concept of different genres requiring different pen names for the sake of marketing, because you can love somebody writing a YA romance, and every time they write a YA romance, you love it. And then they write like a fantasy epic and you don't like that, but it's under the same name. So you like, oh, the last book they wrote I didn't like, but when they write another YA romance, you don't want to read it because the last book they wrote was not the genre that you liked. So now they've got this one book that's on their portfolio that doesn't make sense. I hate that. I hate that so much. I think that you should be able to conceptually, as a reader, look at a cover of a book or look at the summary of a book or look at just like all of the things that make different genres noticeably different genres. I think you should be able to look at that and see it. Like if this author, let's say Sarah Dessen, YA romance I grew up on. Sarah Dessen wrote a fantasy book. Sarah Dessen's fantasy book would be on a different shelf than the rest of Sarah Dessen's books. In bookstores, in most libraries, anywhere, like online, it would be in a different way of looking at it. So the cover would be different. Fantasy covers and YA romance covers are drastically different 95% of the time. YA romance, you get like pastels, neon bright white, those kinds of that side of the color spectrum. And then fantasies and dystopians and the, like horror, those you get like darker colors, more saturated colors. You get a different visual experience from those covers than you do from a YA romance cover, because you can absolutely judge a book by its cover, at least a little bit. You can absolutely look at this cover and know that they are in different genres easily. You would never see those two covers and say, oh, clearly you're gonna have the same reading experience from these two books. No, you're not. You're not. And you know you're not. And I think that that should be good enough to not have to come up with a different name for different genres. It's something that I can understand for different age ranges, where like if you write adult fiction and you also write children's fiction, maybe you don't want to have them as the same name. But if you're writing in the same realm of readers, in the same age range of readers, but different genres, like if you're writing YA, NA, and adult books, you should be able to use the same name. And I don't know why I don't like the concept of a pen name. It just feels like you are not taking credit for what you've done. Even though you are taking credit for it, it's just another name that you have. I don't like it conceptually. It just doesn't, it rubs me the wrong way. And the idea that I may have to choose a genre to go with my name gives me the ick. I hate that idea. So that is something I am concerned about, having to make a pen name for marketing purposes, because that's somehow more important than having like a following of people for you as a person. I would read the crap out of a Sarah Dessen fantasy book. If she's got a pen name where she writes fantasy, let me know, because I would read the crap out of it. Back to my insecurities though. I am worried about the logistics of getting something I've written out into the world and finding the way to do that, because every system that I write with, the different methods, the different platforms of writing that I do are all in very different spaces. They're very different ways to get it out into the world. And I'm worried about the vulnerability that comes from trying to get your writing out into the world and the basically putting your heart on a platter and giving it to somebody to chop up and throw away. I am very worried about that and the stability that I will have afterwards if it does not go well. Being a writer is scary. It's a scary thing to do. It's a scary way to put yourself out into the world. It's a scary way to present your values and emotions and perceptions of things to be out into the public, to be disagreed with or to be hated for or anything along those lines. And it's a scary hobby to have. It's a scary goal in life to have. And if you aren't scared of it, I honestly don't know if I envy you or if I don't think that you care as much as me, because there's a part of me that thinks if you're not scared of not doing it, then why are you doing it? What is keeping you going if you aren't scared of what happens if you don't keep going? I do genuinely hope that I can come back to this video someday and just know we achieved this goal, which kind of negates that insecurity, or there is so much more that you can do if you just stop thinking about that. And this is all of the things that we were able to do when you stopped being so concerned with this insecurity. And I genuinely hope that I have that opportunity, because these are very vague insecurities. They're very like experiential insecurities, where when Kate Kavanaugh did it, her insecurities were very much like, I'm working on this project and I'm worried that for this project, this will happen. I don't have as many projects open and running as she does to have active insecurities about them. I just have active insecurities about the concept of writing. That is something that I hope I'm able to navigate in 5-6 years or whatever it is that I end up coming back to this video and being like, hey, let's react. Because I think that's a really awesome opportunity to have someday. What is your current heaviest writing insecurity? What are you the most worried about right now? Let me know in the comments and we'll see if we can find some people who can help each other feel more confident in their own writing as we work together as a group. But that is all that I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something or you feel less alone in your having of lots of insecurities about writing, leave a like. It'll really help me out and show YouTube that maybe more people will also like this video. If you don't want to miss any of my uploads, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. I am here on Tuesdays and Saturdays for Writing Tip Tuesdays and Story Study Saturdays, so I will see you guys on Saturday for a story study video.